Good morning, listeners. Welcome to Talk About It with Sam. Thank you guys so much for chiming in on a new episode. Here today, I'm going to be interviewing Deborah Hillard, who is an entrepreneur and an artist. Hi, Deborah. Thank you so much for coming on.
Hi,
It's so nice to have you. How are you this morning?
I'm great, and this is really a pleasure. I'm excited to talk to you.
That's so wonderful. So, Deborah, you have an extraordinary background. So I just want to go over just a couple of things. But just to kind of get us started, it looks like you are an artist, you're an entrepreneur, you have a history with bodybuilding and personal training, you have a history in coaching. So tell us a little bit about that and all of your experiences with kind of just like your working journey.
Well, my working journey started a very long time ago. I have been an artist my whole life, ever since I was a child. That's not a thing that I do. It's how I live. It's the air that I breathe. So no matter what I'm actually doing for work or in any part of my life, I'm doing it with the eyes and the sensibilities of a creator, an artist. That's how I see and experience the world. So as a child, I was always creating. It just came naturally to me. It feels like um, to create is life to me. I can't live without that. I started as a painter way back when, and painting and writing and creating in all kinds of forms using my hands has been a thread that has run through my entire life. So when I chose to go into bodybuilding, that was a time in my life when I had been an artist. I had been producing art in one form or another, but for health reasons, I'd been diagnosed with chronic fatigue syndrome back in my 20s. And um, it was just a time when I was nearing 40. Um, all the doctors had been saying to me, you will never this, you will never that. I mean, all I heard was never, never, never. And I knew that I was just too young to live the rest of my life never being able to do the things that I love to do or live the way I wanted to live. So I hired a strength coach from a local university. Neither one of us knew anything about bodybuilding, and that really wasn't my my focus at the time. It was, I want to get my strength back, because I knew that in order to live my life and do the things that I wanted to do and be who I truly am, which was a strong, healthy, vibrant person, not a sick one, I needed my physical strength. So that got me into training. And interestingly enough, my training it took on the feel of my art, because it was a very intuitive process for me, and it turned out for him as well. I have never been one to sort of go by the book with anything. So when it came to training, kind of like with my art, I moved through the process of regaining my strength, listening to my body, listening to the messages that were coming to me through spirit. And at the time, I wouldn't have called it that, but it was just a way of being that felt very natural to me. And I threw out all the rules. And after about 8 months of going into the gym, doing literally a set of leg extensions and going home and crashing and going to bed for 2 weeks, time after time doing this over the course of months, I was going through full workouts. And people in the gym were coming to me and asking me what I was doing, because they saw that when I started, I could barely move. I mean, if you got me down on the floor, I could barely get myself up. And I remember the day that I was sitting on a bench between two cable crossovers. And it just hit me. And I turned to my trainer and I said, I know what I need to do with the rest of my life. I need to be a trainer and a coach because this has given me my life back. And at that point, I changed course, and I learned what I needed to learn, got my certification, and began training people with the sensibilities that I have as an artist. So you talk about, you wanted to know about my work life. It has been a series of using different vehicles to express a very single truth about who I am, and a truth that up until this point in my life, I've not been able to fully articulate. But
Now, if you don't mind,
no,
I
go
just
ahead.
want to stop you there because we actually had a discussion prior to the podcast where, you know, you were very transparent, you were super honest, and you talked a lot about like your background, and you had a monumental moment that really changed your entire life. Would you say that any of your work had anything to do with that, or do you think that it was more related to like your illnesses?
Um, I can't say that it was related to one thing or another. Everything that I've done throughout the course of my life has led me to that point that you're referring to, which is something that occurred this past September. It is a combination. It was a combination of the work that I've done as an artist, the spiritual work that I've done, all of my years of training myself and others. There's no one thing that I can say is the catalyst. Having been ill for a good part of my adult life with one thing or another, certainly triggered growth spurts and awarenesses. I mean, I've had to face a tremendous amount of challenge in my life, from physical ills to emotional abuse, physical abuse, sexual abuse, abandonment, loss, grief, you name it. I have been through the ringer in the course of my 70 plus years. And all of that was necessary to bring me to this point where I was ready and willing to awaken to what I've awakened to in the last few months. So I cannot pick one specific thing. It was all part of
Divine plan.
intricately woven tapestry that
It's
just
beautiful.
had to be.
So, I mean, that makes it so much sense because it sounds like everything coming together, you know, with your traumas and then your overcomings and then all of your knowledge is what brought you to this point, which, you know, I think that it's kind of a funny way to look at it, but it's almost like you're thankful for your traumas and the things that you went through so that you were able to overcome it and get it to the place that you are now. Would you
Mm-hmm.
agree with that?
I'm very grateful. I will tell you that, and this may sound a little bit off the wall to some of your listeners, I'm not sure, but I'm a very spiritually oriented person and have been for most of my life. Ever since I was a child, I knew on some level that I was being prepared for something. I couldn't articulate it that way as a child, but there was a knowing. There's just a sense that my life was about something more than what it appeared to be. And I grew up in a family that had no sense of who I was, no appreciation for who I was, and no tolerance for who I was. So having to hide for a good part of my life and do my work more inwardly focused, as if I were in hiding because I was afraid of being found out, has given me the ability to dive so deeply within myself and into other dimensions, that had it not been that way, I would not be who I am. And I am very grateful. And I'm also very grateful that it's in the past, because it was
Yeah.
not a life that I would wish on anyone, certainly not the faint of heart.
Oh, wow. Awesome. Well, so if you don't mind, can we kind of dive into your spiritual awakening?
Yes, absolutely.
Awesome.
Um,
So tell us a little about that.
well, I follow a shamanic path. Um, I have hesitated in the past to call myself a shaman, but this past January, when I turned 70, I made a declaration about who I was and what this year was about for me. I had this very strong sense that I was pregnant with the seed of myself, a self that I was going to give birth to at some point, that I had worked an entire lifetime to embody but could not. And I had the feeling, literally, of being pregnant, and began to sense messages from this child within that was growing inside me. And as I did, I found myself creating visual images. As an artist, painting has been a major way of me expressing the images and the messages that come through me from spirit. The images that were coming through were womb-like images, and a whole series that I called womb flowers, that were, it was like a conversation between the person that I was, the mother, and the child growing within me. And as we had this conversation, I created I will call it an invocation, a declaration. I'm not sure of the correct term to use, but I said these words every single day, multiple times a day, silently, out loud, giving this child growing within me new codes of truth to be born into. Because the person that I was prior to this awakening was born into lies, born into fear, judgment, rejection. The womb that I entered was not a friendly one. I wanted my unborn child to know that she was welcomed, loved, and being born into truth. So I, without very much thought, this just came to me, and I will share it if you'd like me to. It's a very sacred declaration that now, given my experience, I can look back and say, yeah, I really did know what the truth was, because these words just formed for me. And now my work is to embody that as fully as I possibly can, and spread that, to share that with others, to use my work as an artist and with other people as an artist to help them to awaken to the same thing for themselves. So this declaration went like this. I am priestess. I am shaman. I am warrior. I am witch. I am valuable beyond measure. I am the vessel through which magic and miracles flow. I trust in myself completely and am sovereign unto myself alone. I am the gift that is met with all that I need to sustain myself and thrive in every way. And those words were the words that I said to my unborn child every single day. You asked about this awakening that happened. Over the course of many months, beginning, as I said, in January of this year, I worked with another shaman to prepare me for a plant medicine ceremony, something that I had been envisioning for myself and working towards really for the last couple of years. I knew that this was my path. I just hadn't been ready. And we scheduled this ceremony where I would be using a sacred cactus to help me spiritually shift into a new way of being. This ceremony was supposed to happen numerous times over the course of this year, and for one reason or another kept getting put off. And looking back, I can tell you that it's very clear to me why it didn't happen until the moment that it happened, because every little detail, every piece of me that needed to be in alignment just needed to be in alignment. And it couldn't happen one moment sooner than it actually happened, right up until literally the moment that it happened. So in September of this year, the shaman came out to my home where I had prepared a space outside my studio under a tree that I had saved after a tornado here a number of years ago, a very special tree to me that symbolizes, let's just say it's my symbol of resilience. And we worked over the week that he was here. My husband went through ceremony first. I got sick the day that he arrived, and it was, oh my God, are we going to be able to do this? And literally until that day, we weren't sure if I was going to be well enough to go through it. I went out to my studio the night that it happened, just to be alone and prepare myself, get myself in the right space with no distractions. And about 9:30 that night, I called him and I said, okay, I'm ready. And that had been after going to sleep and waking up and going to sleep and like, there was just so much happening to prepare me on another level. And I needed to let go of any control over this at all. It was not, Spirit had my best interest at heart. And I just had to get myself out of the way. So about 9:30 that night, we went out to my tree and did a process that we do to prepare. And I drank from the cactus, and my journey began. I won't share all of it because there's just too many. I mean, this was probably 10, 12 hours of journeying. But at one point, and this is the point that I know you're referring to when we talk about my awakening. At one point, he had gotten up to go inside for a moment, and I was lying under my tree looking up at the stars through the branches of my tree. And the branches began to descend around me and turn into the wings of angels. And in that moment, there was a light. When I say light, I mean, it's like a light that I have never experienced. And as these wings held me, I felt this light enter every cell of my being. It went beyond my body. It was like my entire being was bathed in this light. And there was this sense that I had that everything that had ever been that I knew to be true was not only true, it was blessed. It was ordained by Spirit. I felt a love and a connection that I have never felt ever before. And when my shaman returned, I was in this state and I said these words to him, and these are not words that ever would have come out of my mouth. I said I was just held in the arms of angels and touched by the hand of God. And I'm not one to even use the word God, but it was so, I was absolutely transformed in that moment. I knew that all that I had ever been afraid of, all the lies that I'd lived with, all that I endured, like, was gone. It was not gone like it never happened, but gone from my being. I wasn't carrying it anymore. And he said to me that in that moment was when that person that I'd been for 70 plus years died. And the child that she had been carrying was born. And after that, I no longer now refer to the person that I was for the first 70 years of my life as me. She's my mother. She is the person who worked her entire life so that I could live the truth that she never could, so that I could embody that truth fully without carrying the weight that she carried. And I now feel a freedom that she always wanted, but could never achieve for herself. I remember her saying all her life that all she ever wanted was freedom, but she couldn't quite articulate freedom from what. Mm-hmm. Now I know. The person that I am now, is who she always knew she was, but she couldn't live it. She couldn't embody that. And it took all of her art, all of her writing, all of her training, all of her coaching, all of the abuse, all of the loss, all of the illness, everything, to work through all that needed to be worked through so that she was ready to totally surrender and die to who she was, to let it all go. And now I'm almost 71 and I feel like I am just beginning life for the first
Have you
time.
ever heard of the term rebirth?
Of course. Of
Yeah.
course.
So you were rebirthed.
Not in the sense that most people think of it. I have been through rebirthing processes. I've done rebirthing. My mother experienced being birthed into new iterations of who she was numerous times in her life. This is not that. This is something I really, I'm not sure I have adequate words for. It's not like any rebirth. It's not it's an actual birth. It is not a rebirth. I don't know how else to put it.
Wow. It's amazing.
Yeah.
If you had any tips or any specific messages for any of the viewers, what would you tell them?
Well, the one thing that I would say is anything is possible.
It's beautiful.
Anything is possible. You're not ever too old. You're not ever too sick. The external circumstances do not determine your life. You do. And now, coming from a life where my mother always thought she had to know the answer, had to control, had to figure out what was going to happen next. I just live in a question. And the question is my whole life. It's, I don't know what's next. I don't need to know. We don't need to know. All we need to do is pick up our thread of truth. Find that thread that runs through absolutely everything. Pick up that one thread and then weave it into the life that you were meant to live, that you dream of, not the life that you think is possible, not the life others tell you you should have. Your life with your gifts, your abilities, your dreams, your heart. Follow that thread that your heart knows is true for you. That's what I would say.
It's absolutely beautiful. That was wonderful advice. This was truly a wonderful episode. I'm actually looking forward to really collaborating with you in the future. As my viewers grow and as the audience grows a little bit and you get some feedback, spirituality is actually becoming a very up and coming thing. A lot of people are more connected to spirits than they ever have been before. People are actually talking about it now. More holistic practices are becoming more and upcoming. So this is actually really exciting. And I'm looking forward to getting some feedback from this episode so that maybe we can kind of continue the spiritual conversation.
That would be wonderful. And I'd be thrilled to participate. I know that my work going forward is working with others, using my art and using all my years of coaching and facilitating to help facilitate that process of awakening through my art with others. So working together with someone who's also working with other people to awaken and to help them find their own power and their own strength is really a gift. I would love that.
It truly is. That's great. Well, that's excellent. Thank you so much, Deborah. I hope that you have a great day, and I look forward to collaborating with you in the future.
Same here. Thank you so much.
Of course. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.